The Supreme Court fails to issue a stay on the vaccine mandate, so it is technically in effect right now, but we'll talk a bit about what this means and where this goes and what happens next because of this. In other news, Jerome Powell has made a pitch for a second term, telling us that America can't afford runaway inflation, even though a lot of people are going to go get fired. Well, we'll see what happens with that. The teachers' unions in Chicago have reached an agreement, and they are going back to in-person learning, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. And a top Iranian general says, "We will strike America and witness the annihilation." It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. Yeah, late start. It's been a long time since we started this late on Contemporary because I made a conscious effort to get everything started. But, you know, you get up and you roll over in the bed and realize that you've got a massive nosebleed as you're getting ready to come up and get onto the show. And I did prep everything. I just didn't organize it before I went to bed last night. But, yeah, I just get up and massive nosebleed. I don't know if it's because of the commie coop. I don't know if it's because of any of that. All I know is that it sucked, and that's 15 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back. So, but we are here, we're ready to go over here on Contemporary with another slew of news to go over and another slew of things to talk about. So, let's get started, shall we? But before we do, guys, make sure you go over and check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. Turns of Pages Productions will be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We'll carry great shows such as Contemporary and KTZed Redemption. Both of those shows will also carry The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, the new upcoming project with Britt and Sean Hickman is going to be carried on the network, and The Daily Ignoramus. So go check all those out. Even though he was running late last night, Daily Ignoramus will be at the regular time this morning, so make sure you guys go over and check that out as well. It's a great time. I do love hanging out with Stephen Ignoramus. He's probably one of my favorite people in the world, so go and check that out. That is my official recommendation for that. But go check out the website. New fundraiser is coming, so go and check that out as well. We'll get the details out as we figure out what goes on with that, and we'll see what happens with that. But thank you guys for going and checking out the website and coming and hanging out with all the great content creators that come and hang out. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the finance for the morning here. The Dow ended down again, but it tried to turn itself back up and go back up again. It's only down 0.45% throughout the day. That is down 162.79 points, down to 36,068.87, with trading already back into gear, and we'll see what happens with that. But it does look like the futures are going to turn around and come back. Looking in at your Bitcoin, let's get a refresh on that. Your Bitcoin is at 41,669 US dollars and 40 US cents, a slight uptick from yesterday, but still coming down in the broader sense. You're down 153 US dollars and 50 US cents, or 0.37%. Looking in at your industrials right now, copper is down, steel is down, aluminum is up on the averages. Looking in at all of your copper and brass plays, they're all down. All of your steel plays are down as well. Rims have come up, but everything else on aluminum is coming down as well. Electric motors are up, ballasts are down, lead is down, batteries are down. Large foreign catalytic converters and large GM cats are both up, but the rest of the cats have come back down. Small foreign cat, small GM cat, and regular domestic cats are all on the downswing right now. Compressors are up, alternators are up, carbide is up, hard drives are up. All your PC plays are actually up. Motherboards, power supplies, low-grade boards, and PC Tower are all up. So go and check out what it is that you need to come back in and trade for scrap if you need to, and check out what this is going to do for the industrials as we go. Looking in at IBD for the morning. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones futures rise ahead of Powell testimony. Tesla China sales strong. Rivian misses production target. This is from Scott Latonin. Dow Jones futures briefly rose 100 points Tuesday morning ahead of Fed Chief Jerome Powell's confirmation hearing. Tesla stock rebounded on strong China sales, while EV rival Rivian fell short of its 2021 production target. Rebounding tech stocks were early leaders, with Illumina and Juniper Networks pacing the S&P 500. Intel shares rallied on a key executive change. Among the Dow Jones leaders, Apple rose 0.7% pre-market Tuesday, while Microsoft moved up 0.6% in today's stock market. Also among the Dow 30, financial leaders Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase are near buy points. Intel jumped 1.2%, leading the Dow after announcing it lured Micron Technology Chief Financial Officer David Cisner as Intel's new CFO, effective January 17th. Tesla traded up more than 1% after China Passenger Car Association data showed the company scored record sales there in December. EV truck rival Rivian dropped 3%. Lucid rose around 1.5%. The Chinese EV leaders Li Auto and Xpeng Motors were higher Tuesday morning. Among Tuesday's top stocks to buy and watch, commercial metals, Diamondback Energy, SVB Financial, there we go, and Wells Fargo are bringing us back up to the top where we have to start over from the article. Our in or near buy zones, Microsoft and Tesla, are the IBD leaderboard stocks. Commercial metals and SVB Financial featured in this week's stocks near buy zone column. Ahead of the stock market open Tuesday, futures moved up 0.1% versus fair value, while S&P 500 futures rose 0.2%. NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.3% versus fair value. Remember that trading in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Among ETFs, the NASDAQ 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust rose 0.5%, and the SPDR S&P 500 ETF traded up 0.25% in pre-market on Tuesday. The 10-year Treasury yield ticked lower to 1.76% Tuesday morning. The 10-year Treasury yield on Monday traded as high as 1.8% before finishing at 1.78%, its highest level since January 17, 2020. Later this morning, Fed Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell will face questions at his Senate confirmation hearing. Powell is expected to win a second term as the head of the central bank. So that's all driving the markets right now. It does look like everything is going to be pointing up. And we'll be talking about Powell this morning too, because, well, I know that a lot of us are in the Fed around here, but he's coming out here and saying the pretty stuff of, oh, hey, we've got to end inflation because otherwise everybody's going to die. Let's grab one from CNN. Dow falls nearly 165 points, but tech stocks make a huge comeback. From Paul R. LaMonica. For some time, many investing experts have been predicting there will be a shift away from big tech towards value stocks, but it might be happening, although tech stocks may not go down without a fight. The broader market fell Monday. The Dow dropped about 163 points, or 0.5%, while the S&P 500 fell 0.1%. Both indices closed well off their lows for the day. Meanwhile, the Nasdaq managed to end the day with a slight gain, a significant turnaround after falling more than 2% at one point on Monday. Growth stocks in particular have been pummeled so far this year due to fears about inflation and slowing the economy. The so-called FANG stocks, Facebook owner Meta Platforms, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google owner Alphabet, are all in the red for 2022. So are Microsoft and chip giant Nvidia, while Elon Musk's Tesla is flat. The Nasdaq is now 8% below its recent all-time high, putting it in danger of falling into a correction, defined as 10% lower than its most recent peak. The Dow and S&P 500 are each about 3% below their peak levels. The SPDR portfolio S&P 500 Growth ETF is down 4% already in 2022, while the iShares Russell 2000 Growth ETF, which owns shares of smaller growth stocks, has plunged 6.6% since the start of the year. Well, it's only been 11 days, so keep that in mind. If the first week of the year is any indication of what to expect over the coming months, investors will have to be nimble in 2022 and be aware of any outsized exposure they may have to growth stocks, said Solita Marcelli, Chief Investment Officer of the Americas at UBS Global Wealth Management, in a report on Monday. So we'll see, and the black pill is already sounding the red flag off of this. I do think that once they jack up the interest rates for everything, that is going to be a drag for this, and I could see a 29,000 Dow come election day. That's within the realm of possibility. I don't think it could go much lower than that, given what we're seeing and the fact that everything is trying to open back up. But with everything else going off of this, there's a possibility we could see it go back down to that point at least. So we will continue to watch and see where this goes. Let's get into the big news of the day, starting with TMZ. Betty White, cause of death revealed, suffers stroke 6 days before passing. Betty White died from a stroke that she suffered nearly a week before she passed, TMZ has learned. Betty's cause of death is listed as a cerebrovascular accident, according to her death certificate, which is a loss of blood flow to part of the brain resulting in brain tissue damage. It's interesting, the certificate obtained by TMZ says Betty suffered the stroke 6 days before her death. Sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ Betty was alert and coherent after the stroke, and she died peacefully in her sleep at home. A cerebrovascular accident can be caused by blood clots or broken blood vessels in the brain. TMZ broke the story. Betty passed away at her home in the final morning of 2021, less than 3 weeks before she would have celebrated her 100th birthday. Betty's birthday, January 17th, will still see the debut of a movie honoring the milestone, Betty White, 100 Years Young, a birthday celebration, and it features tons of stars, including Ryan Reynolds, Tina Fey, Robert Redford, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, Jay Leno, Carol Burnett, Craig Ferguson, Jimmy Kimmel, Valerie Bertinelli, James Corden, Wendy Malick, and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Meanwhile, in her Illinois hometown, January 17th will be a celebration dubbed Betty White Day. As we first told you, Betty rarely left her home during the pandemic, passing the time by doing crossword puzzles, watching TV, and reading. So, we have a confirmation. We know what it was that happened to her, at least, and yes, as KTZed mentioned last night, we did lose America's grandma over the past few weeks, and, well, I'm sorry to hear that, yes, she passed away of a stroke. That had to, especially if she had to wait 6 days too. That had to be awful. Just plain awful to live with after that. But you know, this is a strong person. So that's what we have coming off of that. Also, speaking of celebrity deaths, from the Daily Wire, 911 call released from Bob Saget's death from Ryan Saavedra. Law enforcement has released the 911 call from the Florida hotel that legendary comedian Bob Saget was staying in over the weekend after hotel security found him unresponsive in his hotel bed. The Orange County Sheriff's Office released the call, which contained the following exchange. Let's have a listen.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
Good afternoon. I'm calling from the...
What is the address?
The address is...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I find it weird that it sounds like they're redacting some of this here, like the name of the hotel and the address, because, I mean, we know it was the Ritz-Carlton, and yeah, that's public record of where that is. That's a public business, so I'm a little surprised by the fact that it sounds like they are redacting, but such is life.
Okay, and what's going on there?
We have an unresponsive guest in a room. My officer is telling me that there's no pulse, and
Okay, what room number?
he's in room.
Okay. Non-responsive, not breathing?
Yeah. Not responsive, not breathing, and no pulse.
Okay, stay on the line for medical, one moment.
Thank you.
Do you know how old?
Orange County Fire Rescue?
Yes, 20.
Okay. And caller, I have the phone numbers. The direct phone number.
And that's it. Like 75% of that was redacted anyway, so I don't know what really the point was off of this. Looking back into what they were saying is, what's the location of your emergency? I'm calling from the redacted. What's the address? The address is redacted. What's going on there? We have an unresponsive guest in hotel room. My officer told me that there's no pulse. Okay, what's the room number? He's in room redacted. Non-responsive, not breathing. Yes, no breathing, no pulse. The Orange County Sheriff's Office released a report Monday that their investigation into Saget's death, who was found dead in a Florida hotel room on Sunday. The report states that Saget was expected to check out Sunday, and his family members excuse me, had been unable to get a hold of him. WESH-TV reported family members were contacted the Ritz-Carlton security, who sent a team member to perform a welfare check. When security entered the room, all the lights were off and things were described as orderly. Probably, given the fact that it was Danny fucking Tanner, probably scrubbed and clean too. According to the report, Saget's left arm was crossed on his chest while his right arm was resting on the bed. No signs of trauma were seen. Saget was on the bed and was cold to the touch, yellow and clammy. Dr. Joshua Stephanie, Chief Medical Examiner for Orange and Osceola counties, released the following initial autopsy report on Monday. An autopsy was performed this morning on Robert Lane Saget. Mr. Saget is a 65-year-old male who was found unresponsive in his hotel room. At this time, there's no evidence of drug use or foul play. The cause and manner of death are pending further studies and investigation, which may take up to 10 to 12 weeks to complete. When the autopsy report has been finalized, a follow-up press statement will be released. Our condolences go out to Mr. Saget's loved ones during this difficult time. So, no cause of death off of this, but I know that's been one of the things people have been crazy about figuring out what's happened with the 911 call. And really, honestly, I do think it's a little bit surprising to see that, somebody who can, for the most part, afford cash out of pocket, the best medical care in the universe, that he died at 65, but I guess we'll figure out what happened, and the news will tell us as it goes, so we'll see what happens with that. Alright, and going on with deaths that happening famously across the week. From yesterday, Robert Durst, convicted murderer and subject of HBO's The Jinx, has died. From Paul Verkaman and Faith Karimi. Robert Durst, the eccentric millionaire who fascinated viewers as the subject of HBO's documentary series The Jinx before being convicted last year of murder, has died in a California prison hospital, according to his longtime attorney, Dick DeGuerin. He was 78. Durst, who has been housed at the California Healthcare Facility in Stockton, died of natural causes at 6:44 a.m. on Monday, according to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. The coroner in San Joaquin County will determine the exact cause of death. Serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole, Durst was treated after being diagnosed with COVID-19 in October. The real estate heir also suffered from a multitude of other ailments, including bladder cancer. On November 1st, a grand jury in New York indicted him for murder in the death of Katie McCormick Durst. The Westchester County, New York District Attorney's Office had hoped that Durst would appear in court, and DA Miriam Roach reacted to the news. After 40 years spent seeking justice for her death, I know how upsetting this news must be for Kathleen Durst's family, Roach said. We had hoped to allow them the opportunity to see Mr. Durst finally face charges for Kathleen's murder, because we know that all families never stop wanting closure, justice, and accountability. The DA's office added it plans to make further information surrounding the case available to the public to the extent allowed by law in the coming days. So, I don't know much about this situation. I don't know much about his situation. I know, once again, this was another one that jumped onto the Twitter trending right away, and everyone else wanted to come back and talk about it. But yeah, I don't know enough about the case to see what's going on with that and where that goes. But, if you guys know more about this than I do, throw it up in the chat. But, I mean, if he isn't able to face charges for what happened with his wife, which I thought that's what he was in for to begin with, but apparently not. If he wasn't able to face charges for that, then yeah, that is going to be lame for the family, and we'll see what happens with that. But at this point, yes, Robert Durst has passed away as well. All right, let's talk about the Supreme Court, starting with Fox News. Supreme Court will likely issue split ruling on Biden vaccine mandate, according to Dylan from Yale Hanlon. Senators for America's Liberty CEO and civil rights attorney Harmeet Dillon predicted a split ruling on the Supreme Court in the case that will determine the constitutionality of President Biden's COVID-19 OSHA vaccine regulations. The Supreme Court on Friday heard close to 4 hours of oral arguments over 2 of the Biden admin's vaccine mandates, which have remained under intense legal scrutiny and have been struck down in battles across federal courts. Dillon, who is personally representing the client in the case, said the justices will likely uphold the mandate requiring healthcare workers to be vaccinated while overturning the rule applying to private companies with more than 100 employees. I think there may be a split ruling on the court. I think the case challenging the large employer mandate, it looks to me like we have 5 or 6 votes to enjoin that order, she said. But on the one regarding medical facilities, because the order is tied to federal funding, I think that there's some different arguments, and the justices seem more likely to uphold that OSHA mandate on medical facilities, which is what I've said from the beginning. Once you have federal funding involved, the federal government is involved in your building, and for the intents and purposes of, well, them controlling the purse strings, they own your business at that point. Oh, hey, you want to get funded by us? You are going to do exactly what we tell you to do, otherwise you're not going to be funded by us anymore. Which, I mean, I understand, again, that a lot of these facilities are in a situation where that's all that they have is Medicare. Their patients are Medicare because it's easy money off of this, but man, this has got to be evidence right there to stay out of, to not let the federal government do anything to try to help you. This has got to be the biggest evidence to have that conversation right there. No, we shouldn't be letting the federal government help us, because now they come in and they say that they own our business and we have to do what they say. The first phase of Biden's vaccine or test mandate for employees at applicable companies went into effect Monday, despite the ongoing consideration from the High Court. Today is day 1 when the compliance is supposed to be occurring, and that's true for 80 million employees around the country, Dillon said. So the fact that the court is still sitting on this and hasn't ruled yet produces tremendous expense, uncertainty, stress, and disruption to the American economy. I really hope for the sake of all those employers that the court rules quickly so that we can move on and arrange our affairs accordingly. If the court elects to strike down both mandates, Dillon said there will be many states, probably New York, California, and other states, that decide it's within their power to order this type of thing, and we'll have a fresh round of litigation over it. Meanwhile, we all know that this vaccine is not particularly effective against the current version of the virus. No, that's not true, Susan. This is the most effective thing in the world. Don't ban me. That's not true. Everybody should have a vaccine. Totally. It's the most effective thing in the world. Honk honk. So all it really undermines is both citizen confidence in the judiciary and the legislature and the public health. This is a really bad situation for the future of public health in the country, the way the government is handling this particular situation. And yeah, I could definitely see the split decision off of this. I could definitely see them coming out and saying, yes, no, because you're getting Medicare dollars, then yeah, the federal government has jurisdiction over you. I don't like it, but I can see it. I can see where they come to that conclusion. All right, moving on. Biden coronavirus vaccine or test mandate does go into effect, according to The Hill. From Carl Evers Hillstrom. Key components of the Biden admin's pinko pox vaccine or test mandate for more than 80 million workers went into effect Monday amid an ongoing Supreme Court battle that could ultimately doom the rule. The months-long legal battle over the requirement, which was previously blocked by a federal court before being reinstated, has created confusion among employers about how to move forward, while Supreme Court justices expressed skepticism about the rule on Friday. They did not block its implementation by Monday's deadline. As of Monday, businesses with 100 or more employees were required to have a database of their workers' vaccination status, post their company vaccine policy, provide paid leave to workers getting the vaccine, and require unvaccinated employees to wear a mask at work. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the agency tasked with enforcing the rule, has said it won't issue penalties for noncompliance until February 9th. That's the deadline for businesses to implement the weekly COVID-19 testing alternative for unvaccinated workers. OSHA has been very careful to say that as long as employers are in good faith moving forward towards compliance, they're not going to issue any citations until February 9th, said Dominic Camacho Moran, an employment attorney at New York-based law firm Farrell Fritz PC. But if there's an egregious violation, I don't think employers can rely on the promise that there will not be a citation, she added. Employers need to take steps to immediately comply. Simply collecting vaccination information has proven difficult for some businesses, particularly when it comes to getting unvaccinated workers to reveal their status. Business groups point out that the federal agencies were unable to determine the vaccination status of hundreds of their own workers when they revealed agency-wide vaccination rates last month. Even the requirement of just figuring out who is vaccinated and who isn't is a significant burden, and the confusion around the court rulings and whether the rule is in effect hasn't helped, said Ed Edgy, Vice President of Government Relations and Workforce Development at the National Retail Federation, which has asked the Supreme Court to halt the OSHA mandate. The risks are high for employers that just ignore the rule. Non-compliant employers could face fines of up to $14,000 per violation, per person per incident, by the way, and potentially open themselves up to litigation from workers who contract COVID-19 in the workplace. Large businesses, particularly those in the manufacturing, retail, and services industry, are most concerned about losing unvaccinated workers amid a tight labor market where 10 million jobs remain unfilled. Last week, the Postal Service asked OSHA for a 120-day extension to comply with the rule, stating it would be nearly impossible to meet the deadlines in time and warning that the mandate would cause many employees to leave the already understaffed mail service. Given the significant challenges that our nation's supply chains are already experiencing, we respectfully suggest that the nation cannot afford the additional potential substantial harm that it would be engendered if the ability of the Postal Service to deliver mail and packages is significantly negatively impacted, Deputy Postmaster General Douglas Tolino wrote in a letter to OSHA officials. An October poll from the Kaiser Family Foundation found that 37% of unvaccinated adults would leave their job if they were forced to get vaccinated or submit to weekly testing, but only 5% of unvaccinated workers have actually left. Over the vaccine mandates, roughly 15% of U.S. adults remain unvaccinated. While businesses initially cheered the OSHA mandate's weekly testing alternative as a way to retain unvaccinated workers, they're now confronting the challenge of finding millions of COVID-19 tests as the nation grapples with a severe testing shortage. Employers can opt to institute strict vaccine mandate and ignore the testing alternative, but few have chosen to do so. When testing requirements go into effect on February 9th, businesses will have to compete with schools, hospitals, and the general public for the limited supply of tests. So, yeah, there's that too. And I mean, this is just a massive overreach to begin with. There's no way, there's no reason. I do have a theory about this. And this comes into the political side of this and especially the campaign season side of this. I do have a theory about this. And I think that a part of this is the fact that they're looking for a way to come back and pack the court. Now, Manchin and Sinema have already come out and said that they have no intention to come back out and pack the court as well. But right now, I don't think that they ever intended, I don't think the Biden admin ever intended to issue fines to OSHA over this thing. I think that they just tried to make a rule so egregious and so out there that the Supreme Court would have no choice but to shoot it down as unconstitutional. But now they can come back out and say, hey, look, don't all you people who got the vax, don't you want to get the vax? We have to do whatever we can to flip the Senate because we need to pack the court to get rid of, to silence the voice of all these evil Trump appointees. We need to add 4 more seats to rebalance the court to make sure that the evil Trump appointees can't do this for your life anymore. I don't think there ever was an intent to go back and do this, because this is so blatantly unconstitutional. But now they can sit back and make all their advertisements coming in and saying, flip the Senate now. So that's what we see for that. One more here from Fox Business. Supreme Court should look to CES before ruling on Biden vaccine mandate. CES drew 45,000 exhibitors and leaders, down from 70% from its peak of 170,000 in 2019, from Liz Clayman. 13 days before the event, known as the world's largest consumer electronics convention, the producer of My Clayman Countdown show and I have been flying high. Every interview slot for our January 4th to 6th in-person live coverage of CES in Las Vegas, Nevada, have been filled with top-shelf names, including T-Mobile CEO Mike Sievert, who back in July was the first to confirm he would open the entire technology trade show as its star keynote. Then on December 22nd, the headline hit T-Mobile CEO Mike Sievert dropping out of CES 2022, the company cited prioritizing the safety of its team. Okay, I reasoned, I get it. We're in the middle of a massive outbreak of Ermagerd, the new COVID variant tearing across the nation. He's nervous, I could understand. The show would be attracting thousands of exhibitors and attendees from 116 countries. I told myself it'll be fine. We had many other CEOs who were still coming and thrilled to get on the show. But Sievert's cancellation opened the floodgates. It was as if the Hoover Dam of show guests had been broken. Citing concerns for their employees' health, Intel, GM, Amazon, Microsoft, Mercedes, Google, Lenovo, TikTok, and Facebook all pulled out. I was most stunned by Intel's retreat. I've been covering CES since 2008, and every year, the world's largest microchip manufacturer has claimed the biggest footprint, a sprawling booth at the Las Vegas Convention Center, where the company spent a fortune designing a huge glittering display of its latest silicon chips and that laptop and tablet makers couldn't run or compute without. It was a shock. Then when it came to CES 2022, Intel would not be living up to its old slogan, Intel Inside. Fox Business remained committed to sending me and a team of 10 photographers, a technical manager, satellite truck operators, audio engineers, field producers, and the network's managing editor to cover what was fast becoming more than just a story for business news viewers. As more names pulled out, I braced myself for what I was sure was coming, an outright cancellation of the entire show. What happened was just the opposite, as the Supreme Court considers President Brandon's vaccine mandate and pinko-pox testing rules for the nation's businesses. Justices should look closely at what appears to be a successful test of whether required vaccinations will be the key to the nation moving safely back to normal. CTA, the Consumer Technology Trade Association that represents the $422 billion U.S. consumer tech industry and runs CES, decided to create its in-person show model from scratch. CTA President and CEO Gary Shapiro didn't waver even as more than a dozen tech leaders scrubbed their travel plans. He insisted the show would go on. In fact, it would be more than just another Vegas convention. It would be the first large-scale test in the nation of whether a massive indoor event, drawing thousands of people from all around the world, could be pulled off in the middle of a highly contagious pandemic without turning into a stupid spreader event. It wouldn't be easy. Well before Ermagerd was even identified, CTA began preparing. It put a mass order with Abbott Labs for the company's Binax Now COVID rapid self-test kits and began working with health experts and Nevada's Democratic Governor Steve Sisolak to formulate the protocols and the plan. Every attendee would have to register his or her proof of 2 vaccination shots, one if they got the Johnson & Johnson jab via the Clear app. Vaccines must be FDA or World Health Organization approved and no exceptions. Among arrival in Vegas, attendees would be required to present proof at one of dozens of booths CES set up at airports, hotels, and the convention center, after which they'd been handed their official credential and 2 free rapid COVID tests. Masks would be required at all times on the convention floor and 10 other CES venues around the city. Journalists could only remove their masks during live interviews. There would be free rapid testing at the convention center for the duration of the 4-day event. The convention center, which spans more than 4 million square feet of exhibition space, was outfitted with enhanced air filtration systems, and international travelers would get free PCR tests after the show ended. So this is, and I mean, with all this invasive stuff off of this, I wouldn't go out to a convention. Fuck that. At some point, we are going to draw to a close for this thing. Right now, the Brandon administration is trying to come back out and rework the numbers to actually finally come out and say who died with COVID rather than who died of COVID. We're going to see that massive shift coming up here in the very near future because the numbers look abysmal for the Brandon administration right now. They look horrible for the Biden admin. If we go with the numbers that are presented to us on paper, which I don't believe and I never have. But we'll see what happens with that and where this goes, and we'll see what the ruling is as we go. All right, let's talk about the Fed. Jerome Powell's pitch for a second term, America can't afford runaway inflation, from Matt Egan. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is pledging not to allow inflation to become ingrained in the American economy, according to prepared remarks released on Monday. We know that high inflation exacts a toll, particularly for those less able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation, Powell said in the remarks released ahead of his confirmation hearing on Tuesday. Powell, who President Brandon has nominated for another 4-year term to run the Fed, said the U.S. Central Bank is strongly committed to achieving its goals of maximum employment and price stability. We will use our tools to support the economy and a strong labor market and to prevent higher inflation from becoming entrenched, said Powell. Prices have been anything but stable recently. Consumer prices rose by 6.8% in November from the year before, the fastest pace in 39 years. The December inflation report, due out on Wednesday, is expected to show price gains accelerated further last month. Powell argued that the Fed, Congress, and the American people successfully avoided a full-scale depression when COVID erupted in March of 2020. Well, that's partially because we had record labor force participation at the time, 7 million unfilled jobs, and wages were rising substantially at the time. There's a reason that we're able to do that at the time. Today, the economy is expanding at its fastest pace in many years, and the labor market is strong, he said. The unemployment rate tumbled in December to 3.9%, the lowest level since February of 2020. Yet Powell acknowledged that challenges remain, including the high cost of living. The economy has rapidly gained strength despite the ongoing pandemic, giving rise to persistent supply and demand imbalances and bottlenecks, and thus to elevated inflation, Powell said. Powell's confirmation hearing is scheduled for 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday before the Senate Banking Committee. Warren has aggressively lobbied against reappointing Powell, arguing that he's gone too soft on Wall Street and that makes him a dangerous man for the role. Yeah, we'll be talking about that just a little bit more in depth at this point. As far as Powell goes, I don't know. First and foremost, I don't know that he's got the answers to this because they still have that massive spending plan looming, and they're going to start printing the money very soon for the $1 trillion, almost $2 trillion infrastructure bill. That's not going to be going for mostly infrastructure. That's going to be mostly going for pork barrel, picking up poke spending. But that money is going to hit our economy at some point here within the next 12 months, which is going to start seeing more inflation coming back out of this. And that is on top of the fact that, yeah, we're talking about 7% inflation for December. And Powell's idea is to raise the rates on the banks to make it harder for the banks to give out a loan to you and me. If we want to go out and buy a house, if we want to go out and purchase land, if we want to go buy a car, that's all going to be affected by the rate hikes off of this. I don't think this is the way. I don't think he's going to do this. In fact, I think this is going to... We are going to see 29,000 Dow because of this, but we'll see what happens off of that. Let's talk about Elizabeth Warren. Warren, Powell's actions raise suspicion Fed may be hiding full scope of trading scandal. From Michael Schnell. Senator Elizabeth Warren on Monday said the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's failure to disclose requested information on the trading scandal that rocked the central bank suggests that the Fed is hiding the full scope of the situation. Warren penned a letter to Powell on Monday reiterating her request by the Fed, to release all available information regarding trades made by central bank officials, in addition to the ethics changes the bank announced in response to the trading scandal. The Mass Democrat noted that she previously sent requests for information on October 21st and December 7th, both of which were not answered. She's now requesting that details be provided by January 17th. She said the official's failure to provide information raises suspicions that the Fed is not publicly disclosing the full extent of the trading scandal. I am deeply concerned that your continued refusal to release information about the Fed officials' trading is at odds with your stated commitment to address the scandal forthrightly and transparently, and that, particularly in the light of a new report, it raises suspicions that the Fed may be failing to disclose the full scope of the scandal to the public, Warren wrote. A Fed spokesperson told The Hill that the central bank has received the letter, but does not have any further comment. The third push for information comes after the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported on Thursday that departing Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Richard Clarida did not disclose the degree of a financial transaction he made in early 2020 as the central bank was preparing to help the U.S. amid the pinko-pox pandemic. The top official reportedly sold stocks on February 24th when financial markets were tanking amid the coronavirus concerns. He bought back those holdings on February 27th, according to the Times, a purchase that previously came under scrutiny because it was one day before Powell announced the Fed was ready to act amid the pandemic. The Fed has been under scrutiny following reports that top officials made the investment decisions as the central bank was apportioning trillions of dollars in emergency relief funds. Former Dallas Fed President Robert Kaplan and Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren both announced retirements after information regarding the trading scandal became public. Powell directed Fed officials in September to take a comprehensive look at ethics rules for permissible financial holdings and activities by senior staff. So, Warren is against him, but it looks like the rest of the Senate's ready to go with this, and it looks like he will get a second term. And like I said, I think that's unfortunate, and I think that is going to hurt the economy as we go, but we'll see what happens with that. Let's talk about Chicago. Chicago Public Schools reopen Wednesday after reaching deal with CTU. From Sarah Schulte and Mar Kawash. The Chicago Teachers Union said it's suspending its remote work action after a House of Delegates vote, while its members vote on a deal with Chicago Public Schools. The union tweeted Monday that the remote work action is suspended while rank-and-file members vote on the proposed agreement negotiated with CPS and Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Mayor Lightfoot said Monday that teachers will be back in classrooms Tuesday and students will return to school on Wednesday. Classes are still canceled for students on Tuesday as teachers prepare to return to work. The deal includes expanding testing, expanded PPE, agreed-upon metrics for staff and students. Absences would trigger a class or school to move to remote learning, and efforts to increase testing consents for students, Mayor Lightfoot said. The mayor said there will also be new incentives to increase the number of substitutes in the district. Lightfoot said she said the full details of the deal will be released after the agreement is ratified by the full CTU membership. CPS CEO Pedro Martinez said the district remains committed to the safety of teachers, staff, and students. The agreement proposed extends through the end of summer school, Lightfoot said. The full CTU rank-and-file membership is expected to vote on the deal this week. Earlier Monday, the head of CTU accusing Mayor Lightfoot of being relentlessly stubborn. The mayor said she will be relentless in prosecuting a case. But the mayor's not a prosecutor, and I'm not a criminal being prosecuted, said CTU President Jesse Sharkey. Monday marked the fourth straight day for CPS students have been out of class. Lightfoot spoke confidently all weekend about reaching the deal, but no agreement has been reached despite both sides negotiating overnight. Monday evening, Mayor Deadfoot and Martinez issued a joint statement saying today's negotiations were productive. We're waiting to hear back from the CTU. We will update parents, students, and members of the public as soon as we're able. CTU gathered with city leaders and parents on Monday morning at Spry Elementary to highlight some of the issues on the table. So it looks like Chicago schools are going back. I think it's time for a lot of these people to start homeschooling anyway, but that's a big part of the deal. And then you don't have to worry about all the stupidity that's coming out of the CTU, but it is what it is as we go. Let's grab one from WGN. Illinois GOP condemns Pritzker Democratic Party amid CPS battle with CTU. From Tom and Bradley. Tensions over remote learning isn't how the Democratic Party, which controls the governor's mansion at City Hall, wanted to kick off this election year, yet Republicans, sensing education concerns among parents, are now taking aim at Governor Pritzker. The standoff between the CTU and Chicago Public Schools would have profound political implications, potentially creating nervous moments for the top two Illinois politicians. Although it's a complicated local fight with deep history, Republican candidates for governor have wrapped up the saga between the city and teachers union around Governor Pritzker's neck. State Senator Darren Bailey is up with this video. The corrupt Chicago politicians are at it again, closing down schools, ignoring parents, hurting our kids, Bailey said. Polling has remained consistent that parents support in-person school, believing online learning caused their children to fall behind. However, the former state senator Paula Schimpf is using the CPS fight to argue Democrats are wrong on education. This is something that unfortunately we're dealing with leadership failure, Schimpf said. This is a problem that should have been solved 6 months ago. We have the resources for our kids to go to school and attend school in person safely. Gary Rabin, an entrepreneur, says if he were governor, he would take on the CTU. I believe JB is afraid of the consequences of maybe upsetting these unions for political reasons. Rabin said, for the sake of our kids, for the sake of the mental and emotional health of our kids, you've got to step up as a leader. Another gubernatorial hopeful, Jesse Sullivan, has been hammering home the message that Democrats are failing young people in an op-ed published by FoxNews.com on violence, Sullivan writes. This failure of leadership runs deep. Elected leaders' refusal to tackle underlying concerns, or economic issues rather, make it impossible to spend money on what's actually needed. Not mentioned in the GOP critique, Governor Pritzker has tried to intervene. Over the weekend, the governor tweeted he secured 350,000 rapid antigen tests for CPS. Also last week, WGN News learned that before the labor dispute, the state had offered CPS vaccination clinics masks and tests, but the city declined the offer. So, a lot of stuff moving with this, and honestly, once again, and this is from the party who in the 90s was all about religious and homeschool, and we don't want no public school, we don't want no kids in no public school. The GOP winning on education. I mean, it's a good thing, obviously, but because, I mean, education is important to an extent, but the GOP winning on education, if you'd have told me in 1997 that Republicans would be winning on education, both in Virginia and now in Chicago, which, don't get me wrong, I don't think that they're going to win in Chicago anytime soon, but in Virginia and Illinois, if they're going to take a crack and try to win on education, I would have laughed at you in 1997. But here we are. Here we are. Both what happened in Virginia to put Glenn Youngkin into the governor's mansion coming up here later on this month, I believe. I believe the inauguration comes up later this month for him. And now Illinois Republicans taking a swipe at this. I don't think that they'll do it in Illinois because, let's face it, Chicago elects the mayor and the statewide races in Illinois, but there's definitely something going on here. But that's what we see coming off of that. Whoops. Leftist teen group says teachers union is behind protests asking kids to skip school. From Luke Rosiak. A purported student group called Teens Take Charge announced an action mirroring the teachers' union demands, saying New York City students would walk out of school on Tuesday to protest the lack of remote option for teachers and students. The group said, our partners at Students Break the Silence, Press NY, More UFT Caucus, Students Success Network, and the Yaya Network are organizing a student walkout, More UFT, as a far-left faction of the United Federations of Teachers Unions. 30 minutes later, Teens Take Charge sent a corrected announcement saying the walkout was an organic movement by kids, not the list of special interest groups. Correction. The student walkout is organized by a concerned group of New York City public school students, not any existing organization, it said. Thivya Navarathanam, operations director at the Bell, a nonprofit behind the Teens Take Charge group, told the Daily Wire that the original information on the partners was a miscommunication pulled from this tweet from Students Break the Silence. However, our contacts at Students Break the Silence clarified in an email after the email went out that the walkout is being organized by a group of students. More UFT did not immediately return a request for comment on whether it had any role. Teachers' unions are increasingly alienated from parents and politicians of both parties as they seek to avoid showing up for work because of coronavirus fears. Remote learning has caused severe emotional problems and loss of learning, and it hits hardest for impoverished students who do not have parents who can stay home with them. President Brandon and his spokeswoman have said schools are not safe. But in children, unions may have found a group willing to make demands that mirror their workplace negotiations, even if skipping school causes them to fall further behind academically. The student protest is similar to an action by More UFT, which advertised a rally for safety on Monday to demand remote until January 18th. Which, yeah, this is fun. This is great, teachers union. Okay, you can't get what you want at this point, so now have the kids come back out and demand it. Seriously? But oh no, it was just an organic student-led movement. The More UFT had nothing to do with this. Bullshit. Bullshit. And these kids, I'm sorry, even at 17, don't know what's going on with any of this. They don't. These kids have no idea what's going on with any of this. They know what they're told to know by the teachers and adults in their lives. So this is a bunch of shit. All right, let's talk about the January 6th committee. Rep. Jim Jordan declines to say if he's closed the door on cooperating with the January 6th committee. From Ryan Nobles and Paul LeBlanc over at CNN. Republican Rep. Jim Jordan on Monday declined to say definitively if he's closed the door on cooperating with the House Select Committee investigating the Selfie Fest. A top congressional ally of former President Trump, Jordan has penned a defiant letter to the committee chair, Benny Thompson, on Sunday indicating that he does not plan on cooperating with the panel. The Ohio Republican wrote that he has no relevant information that would assist the Select Committee in advancing any legitimate legislative purpose. When pressed Monday by CNN on Capitol Hill about his willingness to cooperate, Jordan declined to say explicitly that he would not cooperate with the committee. The letter speaks for itself. You read the letter. We put the reasons in here. We put the statements in there that we did not because we felt that they were important to say, Jordan said. Asked if he would be appearing before the committee in a public hearing, Jordan only offered, "We have the letter. You can read my letter. That's our response." Last month, the Select Committee asked Jordan to voluntarily meet as it zeroes in on Republican lawmakers who may have significant knowledge of events leading up to U.S. Capitol attack. No, they're not doing that for that. They're not doing that for that. They're looking for what they're doing right now with Jim Jordan and particular people that they can't beat right now because Jim Jordan is in a relatively safe district. As they're looking to make campaign ads or try to bar Jim Jordan from running. Because he participated in insurrection, he can't hold office. None of this has anything to do to trying to get to the bottom of the insurrection. Because if they got to the bottom of it, they would find some things that they don't want to find out, Ray Epps. But they're going to continue to try to come out with this and tell you that this is what this is all about. From the Hill, with a big advertisement on the top. I don't know why. My ad blocker's not working and not taking care of that, but there it is. January 6th panel fires back at Jordan over refusal to cooperate. From Rebecca Beach. The House Committee investigating the Selfie Fest accused Jim Jordan of backtracking on his commitment to cooperate after the Ohio Republican said Sunday he would refuse to voluntarily appear before the panel. Mr. Jordan has previously said that he would cooperate with the committee's investigation, but now appears that the Trump team has persuaded him to try to hide the facts and circumstances of January 6th. The Select Committee will respond to this letter in more detail in the coming days and will consider the appropriate next steps, a committee spokesperson said on Monday. Jordan previously said he has nothing to hide with regard to his actions surrounding January 6th. In a 4-page letter sent to the committee Sunday night, Jordan said he has no relevant information that would assist the committee's investigation. And once again, we're back to the situation where they're not coming out here, they're not trying to get to the bottom of anything. They are trying to come out here and paint Jim Jordan in a certain light so he can't win in his district or he can't take office once again. None of this has anything to do with trying to get to the bottom of this. They're just going on a digging mission to go back and find stuff that they can use for their campaign ads coming up this year. And campaign season is here. All right. Let's talk about Ducey. Fox News reporter Peter Ducey presses Psaki on 500 million missing COVID tests. From Chris Pandolfo. White House Press Secretary Red-Haired Bobblehead was pressed for answers Monday on one that Brandon administration has not yet delivered on its promise to provide free at-home COVID-19 tests to U.S. households, despite announcing a plan to do so last month. During Monday's press briefing, Fox News White House correspondent Peter Ducey, who returned to work after testing positive for the virus over the holidays, asked Bobblehead why the admin was caught unprepared for the scarcity of virus tests. I heard the president say, Google COVID test near me, so as somebody isolating with COVID, I did that, and the appointments everywhere were completely jammed. So why is it that you guys were so unprepared for the need for testing after the holidays? Ducey said. Let's watch the video.
I was home all last week, isolating.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I was isolating with COVID after a positive test, like a lot of people watching, and a lot of time in front of the TV. I heard the president say...
Did you watch Fox the whole time, or other things?
I have exhausted the full catalog of Guy Fieri content.
Oh, okay.
And obviously a lot of Fox. But I heard the president say, Google COVID test near me. So, somebody isolating with COVID, I did that. And the appointments everywhere were completely jammed. So, why is it that you guys were so unprepared for the need for testing after the holidays?
Well, Peter, I'm happy to see you back and well. I would second say that there has been a massive surge in cases, as you know, and we're a part of, in D.C. and New York. And there's been an unprecedented, and other parts of the country as well, there's been an unprecedented demand for tests. So what we have done over the course of the last few weeks, even before that, is the president quadrupled our testing capacity since the summer. We opened 20,000 sites across the country, and we have also opened additional federal sites, including one in D.C. only recently. He's also provided, we've also in the process of sending 50 million tests out to community health centers and rural health centers, and now we're in the process of finalizing contracts for 500 million tests. What can I make one more point, and then you can go next? I would just note where we have come from. If you look to a year ago, there were no tests, or maybe one, depending on the timeline, that was available on the market. Now we have 9. If you look to about a year ago, there was about 900,000 or maybe slightly higher tests that were being issued every day. Now we're about 10 or 11 million. 300 million tests are done in this country every month. So there's enormous progress being made, but we needed to make sure the market was growing. That's what we've been working on, and increase our access to supply, and that's what we've been doing.
So, at first I've got to say, like, what a disingenuous bitch You've been out, and you've been out for a week? Oh, did you watch a bunch of Fox News? Is that what you did the whole time? What a disingenuous cunt, but, that's been my opinion of that woman for a long time. She is a bitch. And, yeah, Ducey is not doing any favors to her good graces either by being the way that he is, but, Ducey is taking on the role of Jim a cocksucker during the Trump administration, doing many of the same things. But Jim a cocksucker was praised as a hero by the left, and Peter Ducey is just a Fox News shill. And as far as this, and by the way, I do want to address what MK Ultra said of why'd you get tested. I actually haven't been tested. I'm going solely on symptoms right now because there's not a fucking test to be had anywhere, just like they said. There is not a test to be had anywhere, but because I've got the wet cough, the massive fever that I had Sunday night, and the fact that so many people around me had it last week, like everywhere. I'm not going to give the details on air, but I can tell you that probably 40% of the people that I work with are out on the pinko pox right now. I was very lucky and very fortunate. And, I made the tweet the other day, and I said, this is what we shut the country down for. I am very fortunate that I had a very, very, very mild case. That I pretty much had fever for one night, a high fever for one night, and a little bit of a wet cough for a day. And then I've had just a little bit of a lingering fever afterwards. But I mean, for me, especially since my body temperature typically runs like 97.9 instead of 98.6. Yeah, 99 fever, which is probably what I have. I haven't taken temperature in a while, but it's probably what I have just based on the level of chill that I have. The low-grade fever like that is, that'll give me a chill. That'll be normal for most of the rest of you, but that'll give me a little bit of a chill. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that Sunday night was just a massively high fever. But yeah, like Ducey said, there is no test to be had anywhere otherwise. And we can't find the 500 million tests either. All right. From the New York Post. American Airlines apologizes to pilot with Let's Go Brandon sticker. From John Brown. American Airlines went viral after responding to a Twitter user Saturday who complained about a pilot because he had a Let's Go Brandon sticker on his luggage. A Twitter user, who has since made her Twitter account private, took a picture of the sticker and sent it to the airline, asking if they accept cowardly rhetoric on their crew luggage when they're in uniform. We're not the only passengers who noticed and were disgusted, the user added. The official Twitter account of American Airlines responded to the user's public complaint, tweeting, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention, and we want to get this to the right team. Please DM any additional details. The user went on to post what she claimed were direct messages with representatives for the airline, who assured her that the complaints have been forwarded to the proper authorities. We take this very seriously, and we've sent over crew leadership, American Airlines said, in response to a direct message from the Twitter user who accused the pilot of displaying political propaganda, supporting insurrection against the US government. Are you fucking kidding me? They will handle this internally after review. We assure you appropriate internal review will occur. Oh my God. The complaint was met with ridicule from other users on Twitter. Hope he and everyone else gets a raise for having to deal with Karen passengers such as this one, tweeted journalist Molly Hemingway. This pilot deserves a raise for dealing with entitled Karens while doing his job, tweeted Christina Pushaw, who is the press secretary for Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Don't fire your pilots for being conservative or criticizing Biden, Pushaw further wrote. We don't have any pilots left, as if the thousands of flight cancellations aren't enough already. American Air, do the right thing. Why are you responding to this bully? Stand with your employee, not internet trolls like Dana, wrote columnist Rita Panahi. You don't need to do anything, Town Hall senior editor Matt Vespa advised the airline. American Airlines made headlines in 2020 when the company allowed crew members to wear Black Lives Matter pins. According to the Dallas Morning News, some employees were reportedly frustrated because the company had not carved out a similar option for those who wanted to express their support for law enforcement. Here's the thing. Now, I will come out and say that as a professionalism, and I did not care for the Black Lives Matter thing either. On professionalism, because you're flying a plane for everybody, not just conservatives, not just Democrats, for everybody. You are flying a plane for everybody. On any whatsoever public-facing job. Yes, that includes pilots, by the way. You should not be wearing a Black Lives Matter pin, and you should not be wearing a Let's Go branded sticker. You shouldn't be doing any of that on your luggage or anything else to go along with that. And that should be a standard uniform requirement while you are on the job. Now, if you're in your car and you want to put a great big window sticker in the back of your car that says #FJB, that takes off the entire rear window, as long as it's not a company car, that's your prerogative. That's what you do. That's your decision. But you are in uniform. And no, I don't agree with American Airlines doing the BLM thing either. That being said, this woman took this way too far by coming out and saying, well, this is political propaganda supporting insurrection against the U.S. government. How is this insurrection? How is this insurrection? It's not. And yeah, pilots, they hate Joe. They do. This is just ridiculous. This is absolutely fucking insanity. But yet, here we are. Here we are. Iran is out here waving the saber once again. Because they're Iran, and they're nuts. Top Iranian general, we will strike America. Witness the annihilation of the Americans. From Daily Wire News. Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Deputy Commander-in-Chief Admiral Ali Fadavi said during a recent interview that when the time is right, the Islamic Republic of Iran is planning to strike the U.S., which comes amid increasing threats from Iran towards the U.S. The Middle East Media Research Institute flagged the clip, noting that Fadavi made the remarks after talking about an incident where Iran took several U.S. sailors captive for hours in 2016. They did very quickly what we asked them to do, Fadavi said. This is the status of the Americans, this is the status of the enemies of Allah, and this is the status of those who stand with the axis of falsehood. We do not have the slightest doubt that at the right time, when we strike America, the great Satan, and its Zionist followers, that we will strike them with great force. Let's watch.
في ذلك اليوم الذي ألقينا فيه القبض على الأمريكيين في جزيرة فارس خلال فترة 20 دقيقة الأولى من العمل، شعر الأمريكيون بتفوق وبأنهم قوة عظمى، وأقلعت طائرتهم من على حاملة الطائرات. ولو أن الأمريكيين أطلقوا رصاصة واحدة حينها باتجاه جزيرة فارس التي هي أرضنا في تلك الليلة، لكنا استهدفنا البارجة حاملة الطائرات. كنا سنستهدف عددا كبيرا من البوارج في تلك المنطقة. أدرك الأمريكيون سريعا جدا بأنهم بمثابة المتهمين والمجرمين المعرضين للإعدام، وهم عرضة لاستهداف من قبل الحرس الثوري بكل ما أوتي من قوة، وقاموا بسرعة. بدلوا الشخص الذي كان يتحدث إلينا من على متن البارجة الحاملة للطائرات بسيدة تتكلم الفارسية. كانت ترد علينا باللغة الفارسية، ومن بين كل 3 كلمات كانت تقولها كانت 2 منهما عبارة عن كلمة حاضر، أي أنني أطيع أوامركم. وكانوا ينفذون بسرعة كبيرة المسار الذي نطلبه منهم. هذه هي أوضاع الأمريكيين، هذه هي أوضاع أعداء الله، هذه أوضاع الذين يقفون في جبهة الباطل. نحن لا يراودنا أدنى شك بأننا في الموعد المناسب. عندما نوجه ضربة إلى أمريكا الشيطان الأكبر ومن يتبعونها أي الصهاينة، فسوف نضربهم بقوة كبيرة، حيث قال سماحته: في حال أقدموا على أقل خطوة فإننا سوف نسوي حيفا وتل أبيب بالتراب. في حال ارتكب الصهاينة حماقة وأقدموا على خطوة ما، مهما كانت الخطوة كبيرة أو صغيرة، فإننا
All right. So this is all in 2 different languages, so I'll just read the captions off here. If the Zionists do something stupid and take a step against us, whether big or small, we will see this as a sign that Allah decreed that we should be attacked so that we could retaliate. He later added, this would mean the annihilation of Zionists. It is a fact that the Zionists will go away much faster than the time frame determined by the leader. Soon we will witness the annihilation of the Americans and their dominance over the world, and specifically over this region. Soon we will see them leave the region. This will definitely happen. Well, I'm on your side on the fact that I want Americans to leave the region. But, dude, if you want to come back in and try to do something on U.S. soil again, I mean, do what you want, but you're kind of taking your life into your own hands at that point. So, good luck. I hope for your sake that your religion is right, and if you die attacking the American people, you go straight to heaven, because, I mean, this is a suicide mission otherwise, but good luck. Godspeed. Alright, we got just a couple more here, then we'll do Twitter trending and head out of here for the day. This one, we already know what happened for this, but there's video that came with this one. The actual security camera video that came with this, so I wanted to come back and talk about this one. From The Blaze, podcaster Tim Pool swatted during a live broadcast. Police stormed the property following reports of a murder. From Sarah Taylor. Police swarmed podcaster Tim Pool's Maryland home on Thursday after reports that there'd been a murder on his property. Authorities later determined that the reports were nothing more than a swatting incident. During a Thursday taping of his Timcast IRL podcast, Poole said, "The cops walked in. We've been swatted, and I'm extremely unhappy with this. I do not like cops coming into my house. When we have mats all over the place that say, 'Come back with a warrant.' I don't know who let them in or why. I understand that they're here because we got swatted." Which, as a review, we can see this video, which we've watched on this channel before.
And they actually announced a number of times.
Yeah, the cops just walked in.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Should we? Yeah, that's. I was looking at my notes and I was like,
Did somebody swat you?
Yep. Somebody swatted us.
did they really?
Swatted us?
Yep, somebody swatted us. So
How do you know?
that's what
How do you
that
know?
was. I have somebody texting me.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
Tim's gonna go
Wow.
take care of
So,
business.
yeah, just a police officer
Just stroll
entered
it in.
here, looked around because it looks like someone swatted this live broadcast here.
Glad they didn't come in here busting, man.
I'm glad, yeah, man.
I mean, that's something that's extremely dangerous, extremely reckless, because SWAT incidences have led to a lot of innocent people
Little
dying,
death.
dogs being shot, people thinking that their house is being raided by criminals defending themselves. So whoever did that and they're listening, like,
Yeah, those
Like-
things.
So, and we saw this video before, and we've gone with this. I don't know why the Rumble is so quiet either, by the way. I don't know why their embed is so quiet. I tried to get it adjusted up, but it is peaked out at that point, so apologies for that. But moving on here, we do have the video. I'm sorry, no, this is just an image. Cops got a call at 8:20 p.m., arrived at 8:27, security camera footage. Time isn't adjusted for daylight savings, at least 8 vehicles, several different jurisdictions. If it wasn't for our CTO going outside and calming things down, it would have been very bad. And yeah, you can see there all the vehicles out with that too, so I thought he was going to release the actual the video that went with that. instead of just the security camera, like a still photo off of this. But yeah, there's a bunch of them out there with their spotlights going. And you do hate to see it, too. You definitely do. But they'll continue to do the things that they have to continue to do to try and silence the voices that they don't want to hear. I do have to wonder if this was because Marjorie Taylor Greene was on the show or for what it was. And, you know, part of me says, Greene is a plant. Is she behind this? I still believe that she's a plant, so obviously. I am curious about that. That is one of the things that trips the trigger off of this and makes me wonder what's actually happening with this, but that's what we say. By the way, also wanted to note, and we'll be doing Twitter trending here in just a couple articles, but She's 13 and Vosh, who is a noted pedophile, are trending both together right now. And that's kind of disturbing. I don't even want to know, but we're probably going to find out. All right, here's one from the Bronx. Self-closing door at the heart of investigation in a Bronx fire that killed 17. From Eyewitness News, ABC 7. Hospitals are desperately working to save the lives of more than a dozen people critically injured by smoke in a fire that killed 17, including 8 children in the Bronx, while the investigation is focused on a door that should have closed automatically but did not. The identities of those who died have still not been released, but authorities said the children who died were a 4-year-old girl, 2 5-year-old girls, a 6-year-old boy, 2 11-year-old girls, a 12-year-old boy, and 1 additional child whose age hasn't been confirmed. 10 children remain hospitalized in various conditions. We'll check this out in just a second. FDNY Commissioner Daniel Negro said the deceased were taken to 7 different hospitals and explained a revision from 19 to 17 fatalities as a result of double count in 2 cases. However, he said they remain critically injured victims, and he braced the community for a possible increase in the death toll. About 200 firefighters battled the 5-alarm blaze that started on the 3rd floor of the 19-story Twin Parks Northwest apartment building, located at 333 East 181st Street at the Tremont section, just before 11 a.m. on Sunday. At least 44 people were injured, with 13 said to be clinging to their lives in nearby hospitals. Several are intubated. Negro said the FDNY is certain the cause was a malfunctioning electric space heater that set a mattress on fire. While the fire was contained to the duplex where it started on the 2nd and 3rd floors and the adjacent hallway, the smoke traveled through the building. It was the smoke that caused the fatalities. Eric Adams said his takeaway from the fire is close the door, and the city would be reminding New Yorkers of that message. Well, let's listen. This is Bill Ritter interviewing a Bronx official on the deadly fire.
Okay, Lee, thank you very much. There were 17 people killed here at this building in the Bronx, including 8 children, and more than a dozen people still fighting for their lives right now in the hospital. So many more people injured. They'll survive. We've talked about fire safety, and we want to focus now directly on it. The message of a fire: always shut the door on your way out of the apartment. And to get that message to everyone, especially immigrants who come looking for a better life here and somehow never get instruction or advice from the landlords, from anyone, from everyone, on some basic fire safety, like when do you stay in your apartment and when do you get out of your apartment. Some of this may not be your first instinct. Eyewitness News reporter Lauren Glassberg digging deeply into how to stay alive in a building fire. Lauren?
Well, Bill, if the fire is in your apartment, leave and close the door behind you. That is, as you said, the main lesson coming out of yesterday's tragedy. The doors in that Bronx building were self-closing, but fire investigators say the mechanism on the door to the apartment where the fire started did not work, and that led to deadly smoke pouring out. But also, other residents left their apartments, which were not on fire, and they should have actually stayed put and sheltered in their homes. Staying put isn't an obvious move, but in a building like this, it was the right one.
You can't have that much smoke throughout that building in a fireproof building unless an awful lot of doors are open, allowing this smoke to go up, because it just goes up. It's like a chimney.
The former commissioner of the FDNY, Thomas Van Essen, knows closing doors would have saved lives. It's exactly what the FDNY is messaging on social media today and at an information table near the scene of yesterday's fire. Another important lesson in a fireproof building: it's safer to stay in your apartment if the fire is elsewhere. Doors.
Yeah, I don't know about that. If I heard the fire alarm, I'd be getting my ass out of there as quickly as I could. In spite of the fact that they say it's safer in a fireproof building, but, you know, and that's the thing. And I don't know anything about any of that. I know that this building is like 25 layers of paint deep, and that's probably what saved the wall out there, but that's what they see coming off of that. Alright, and the last one we do, and then we'll do Twitter trending and head out of here. This is also from ABC 7 News, but this is from ABC 7 out of Los Angeles. Pilot pulled from crash plane in Pacoima moments before Metrolink train slammed into the aircraft. From Amy Powell. Shocking video shows the moment a Metrolink train slammed into a small plane that crashed on its tracks in Pacoima on Sunday. It happened blocks away from the LA Police Department's Foothill Station on Osborne Street. The pilot was the sole occupant on board and was pulled from the aircraft moments before the train came crashing in. The LA Police Department posted body camera footage of the incident as it was unfolding, showing the officers pulling the pilot to safety. So I've got the video up here in the next window. According to the tweet posted by the LAPD Valley Bureau, the plane had lost power and crashed into the tracks. The pilot was taken to the hospital in unknown condition. No other injuries were reported. The damaged plane remained on or near Metrolink Antelope Valley Line tracks, and all train movement was restricted in that area. The LAFD added, one or more lanes of the San Fernando Road and Osborne Street were closed in the area while crews investigated the crash and conducted cleanup operations. The incident remains under investigation. Let's actually watch it, see what that looked like.
Stakes rescues, this train versus plane chain of events is a heart pounder. Now, the odds of what you just saw might be too incredible to believe if it wasn't captured by several vantage points. A pilot stuck in a cockpit after crash landing on train tracks, while in the distance, a terrible sound. LAPD's police body cam footage showing the true heroism 4 seconds before impact. The Metro commuter plane obliterating the small plane at about 60 miles an hour, sending debris flying.
All of a sudden, the bells and whistles and lights started flashing. I just thought, nah, this can't be happening. And I look down the tracks and I see this train with 3 huge white lights coming right at us.
Tonight, the pilot is recovering in the hospital. The officers who saved him say to call him lucky is an understatement, especially when you consider how close they were when the plane went down.
So this over here, this is your police station, and then we got planes landing over here. This is the intersection where it happened? That's right, this is right where it happened. I think this guy's a very lucky man. Not only was it right by the police station, I think he cheated death twice in about 10 minutes, and I think he should buy a lottery ticket.
All of it coming together in those final critical seconds when those officers transformed into the literal hands of fate. Gotti Schwartz, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's, well, that plane made quite a bit less of a mess than a DeLorean does when it gets hit by a train. That's for sure. Let's just see if this is any different at all. Yeah, that's just the 7 seconds that go with that. And the actual incident off of that. But man, oh man. And this is the second time we've seen something like this in the last year. I remember one day when John was sitting in for Elaine, there was the guy in the motorized wheelchair that got stuck on the tracks as well, and he couldn't go. I don't know if it was the wheelchair was stuck on the tracks or if it just ran out of power up there, but you know, that was another one where it was just seconds before that person was able to get yanked off. Just absolute seconds before. So, very lucky guy. Very, very lucky to go with that. And yeah, I'm a little surprised that the commuter rail is going that fast on ground level. That does surprise me a little bit, but yeah, very, very lucky dude. Absolutely. All right, and with that, the last thing that we do on a Wednesday, or Tuesday rather, it's Tuesday, is the Twitter trending for the day. So let's get that out here. Let's see what's trending. On the trends. Really? That seems unlikely. There we go. I was going to say, there are no trends for today. Change your location. No, that's not what happens here. All right. Let's see what's going on here. Number 1 trending is Portfolio Day. Creatives on the hunt for work share their portfolios. This is a quarterly thing I've noticed because we talk about this a few times out of the year. It takes place on the second Tuesday in January, April, July, and October. So, yeah, every quarter they do this. John Ramsey makes art with cute animals. I'm an illustrator from Belarus. Enjoy painting sad, darker fantasy things. Japanese concept artist. And it is, like, it's always very interesting to watch and see some of these things in the work that people do, especially if there are big differences in some of their works, like this guy, who's got a few different styles of art. It's always very interesting to look and see. And, well, because this always happens on a Tuesday, we're talking about this on Twitter trending every time it comes around, every quarter when it comes around. But, I mean, even sculpture, we see some of this as well. Wood carving, mostly pictures. And some of this stuff is, I mean, it's incredible. This one, apparently it's Portfolio Day. I'm not looking for any work, I just want to show off. Is this? That looks like a Pokemon scene. Well, it is one, obviously. There's a Clefairy there. But that's what we see coming off of that. The next trend for the day. Expose Fauci. This will probably be good. Veritas video on Expose Fauci just dropped. Okay, I guess we'll have a look at this one and see what it is that they have to say with that. Gosar also retweets this out. Jaw-dropping report just dropped by Project Veritas. Never before seen military documents obtained by Veritas about gain of function directly contradict Fauci's testimony under oath. Well, let's listen.
Project Veritas has obtained never-before-seen military documents regarding the origins of COVID-19, gain-of-function research, vaccines, potential treatments which have been suppressed, and the government's effort to conceal all of this. Dr. Anthony Fauci has testified many times before Congress stating that the U.S. government was never involved in gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
They gained in lethality. It's a new virus. That's not gain-of-function?
According to the definition that is currently operable.
We're not going to get anywhere close to trying to prevent another lab leak of this dangerous sort of experiment. You won't admit that it's dangerous, and for that lack of judgment, I think it's time that you resign.
That assertion is based on the NIH's definition of gain of function. However, the documents we've obtained refute that. The documents in question stem from a report at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, better known as DARPA, which were hidden in a top-secret share drive. But what is DARPA? They are an agency under the U.S. Department of Defense, which facilitates research and technology with potential military applications. Project Veritas has obtained a separate report to the Inspector General of the Department of Defense, written by the U.S. Marine Corps Major Joseph Murphy, a former DARPA fellow. Major Murphy makes claims in his report to the Inspector General that, if true, could be damning to the official narrative that has been played out to the world over the past 2 years. Major Murphy's report states that EcoHealth Alliance approached DARPA in March 2018, seeking funding to conduct gain-of-function research of bat-borne coronaviruses. DARPA rejected the proposal because the work was too dangerous and could violate the gain-of-function moratorium, despite EcoHealth's position that it would not. According to the documents, the NIAID, under the direction of Dr. Fauci, did not reject the proposal. They went ahead with the research at Wuhan and several sites across the U.S.
So here's the question. If the Department of Defense, the same people who make our nuclear arsenal, felt this research was too dangerous to proceed with, why in the world did the NIH, NIAID, and EcoHealth Alliance recklessly disregard the risks involved?
Well, it's interesting, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that tomorrow because that's an important one to look at. But yeah, I don't trust anything that the good doctor has to say, and I never have. All right, skipping Tuesday 5. The next trend is notifications. Ontario parents may no longer be notified if a child's classmate tests positive for the pinko pox. YouTube, I have a video that's been copyright struck. I have tried to prepare a counter notification twice. Each time I've clearly explained why the video fits well within the bounds of fair use. Each time my counter notification has been rejected. Good luck, because they don't give a fuck. This document faked, so no such notification has been issued by the city of Chihuahua. So, well, there's a lot of smattering of stuff about notifications in this, so that's what we see off that. 30 roses for Dio. Fans wish EXO's Dio a happy birthday. This probably has something to do with K-pop, and I have no idea what it is, especially considering all this is written in Korean. But apparently, Dio, happy birthday. Apparently, allegedly. I don't know who you are, but happy birthday. And the last one. Actually, we'll do two more, because I kind of want to see what this is about, especially because Vouch is trending too with it. Things you should never refuse. From kindness to cookies, people share some of the wonderful things that they should never turn away. If someone offers you a piece of gum, take it. According to my Nana, it could be someone's polite way of saying your breath stinks. A little trip to the bookstore, things you should never refuse. Kindness, a good time, things you should never refuse. Free money. To accept facts, things you should never refuse. Hey, made you look, Black Lives Matter. An offer from the Godfather, things you should never refuse. I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. Hell, things you should never refuse. A back massage. Breakfast, the most important meal of the day. Yeah, I haven't been eating breakfast for the last couple days, and I know I should be. And there you go, there's somebody had to come off of it. The vaccine, things you should never refuse. Alright, and now I do want to see what this is all about, so let's figure out, especially with politics trending. Ted Cruz's teen daughter comes out as bisexual. LGBTQ Nation, which the Foo says she's 13, and Dana Lash said, did the child predator write this? She's 13. I don't know, is that why Vouch is trending? Because Ted Cruz's teen daughter came out as bisexual? And there's somebody who needs to go into the wood chipper. And there's a 13-year-old who's building a PC too, so that's awesome. Good for that. Liberal Not Lefty says she's 13. They know this is going to inspire nasty comments about the Cruz family in the replies. It's why they wrote the article. Using your position of power as journalist to exploit a child for clickbait, it's gross. Leave her alone, and don't write about politicians' minor children. So that's what's going on with this, is the fact that, yeah, Ted Cruz's daughter, 13-year-old daughter, has come out as bi, and LGBTQ Nation decided they needed to come off of this. All right, 6 Twitter trends for the day. There we go. And we're going to head out of here for the day. You got a bonus one today, even though apparently Quest doesn't like the Twitter trending. There it is. All right, so with that, we're out of here. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your patience, too, with the starting late today. Like I say, embarrassing moment. Massive nosebleed as soon as I got up to go out of bed, and that's 15 minutes of my life that I'll never get back. So we're here. We'll be back here tomorrow morning with more contemporary, more news, and more talk about what's happening with the vaccine mandate, plus I'm sure a bunch of other stuff as well. So come back and join us here at the regular time tomorrow morning for more of that, and we will see you then. And until then, you guys, take care. Come and join me with the Daily Ignoramus coming up in a half an hour. Hope to see you guys there. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.